Morning, Sensei.
Hello. Be with you in just a little bit.
No worries.
Yeah, no, I'm not worried. Okay. Co-host.
Yeah,
Like for everybody. Yeah, that should do it. Okay. All right. Yeah, so.
I would like to ask Cliff a question about last night.
Sure. Yes.
Was the video interrupted for you during the class?
There were a couple of stops and starts that, are indicative of low bandwidth issues, but that was it that I recall. I mean, bear in mind that, I'm doing Tai Chi, so I'm not always looking right at the screen. Like sometimes facing away from the camera.
Okay, because sometimes things go out on my computer screen, but they don't necessarily do that on other people's.
Yeah,
So
there was nothing I noticed. So, there was nothing egregious.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for recording for posterity.
Well, in this case, it's the computer room, not upstairs. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, posterity likes these classes as far as I know.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. In the middle here. I don't really need the walker, but it's portable and I can sit on it. Let's see. Yesterday, we did a class in Mountain View. I looked online, it hasn't been posted. Actually, the posts are not my responsibility. So we're a couple of posts behind, but that could have changed. I haven't looked today. And you go back to very famous martial arts movie. In fact, probably you could argue, at least in the Western world, the very first major martial arts film was called Enter the Dragon, starring Bruce Lee. And there's a scene in the beginning, the very beginning, where he's fighting kind of a kickboxing match. And then after, of course, he wins, right? And he meets kind of his master teacher, whatever, afterwards. And there's kind of a discussion, question and answer. And what the teacher says, asks him, he says, what do you think of when you're facing an opponent? And it's somewhat of a trick question. Okay, if you kind of go through the rest of it, you realize, it's a test, right? Not just a test of, just how well you can do martial arts moves, but where are you? Who are you? So the question again that the teacher asks the Bruce Lee character, whose name is Lee, L-I, Lee, okay? What do you think of when you face an opponent? And Lee's answer, there is no opponent. A pretty big answer. It's like, what do you think of? Do you watch the guy's feet? Do you breathe, get yourself ready? He says, there is no opponent. And then the teacher says, and why is that? Again, it's kind of a setup. A lot of it depends on Lee's answer. I mean, he could have said, well, I kind of establish my distance, I kind of catch up, see what I can about the rhythm. Is this person deceptive? Is this person whatever, is he gonna do this or that? Body type, he says, there's no opponent. And why is that? And then the answer is very significant. Lee says, because the word I doesn't exist. And then he elaborates on that a little bit and he kind of says, I don't hit, it hits. Okay. So in that way, I mean, we're kind of going into territory tonight. Nadeau Sensei does a Friday night broadcast, and his title, I haven't really, we haven't talked about what he's going to do tonight, but easy the eye. Okay, from our perspective, for example, the eye does exist. And the existence of the I creates subject-object, i.e. an opponent. Okay, so the approach, easy the I, assumes to some degree there are levels of I. And if you kind of go into the movie, Enter the Dragon, what Bruce Lee is probably trying to say is, the eye exists, but there's also a place where the eye is so transparent that it's not the mechanism for the hit. It hits. It moves. To some degree, it thinks. Okay? And so what is the eye moving towards is a kind of an easiness with itself, a transparency. To some degree, an emptiness. Okay? And so, one of the things that we were kind of doing, for example, is, just for example, now I'm going to stand up. And of course, when I say that, I'm going to catch my sleeve in this thing, all right? I'm going to stand up. Okay? And then, this sense is, okay, now how can we make that a practice? So, easy the eye. I could get into standing better, get my feet under me, move my hips forward a little bit, don't lock my neck and jaw. Those are things that, they're just going to come up there, but get easy the eye, right? I'm standing up, but there's more of a flow to standing. And we go easy the eye again. Notice it's, the eye, notice it's smoother or connected with itself, the act of standing. So there's I or me, and then there's the act of standing. And so I get a little easier or transparent, to some degree, emptier. Okay? And, if we go back into the movie, it stands. Conversely, it sits. I'm trying to be still, but on the other hand, it's still. I'm trying to be more cognizant of my own. On the other hand, it's conscious. I'm noticing my breathing, but it's breathing. Okay. Anyway, so that was a little bit what we explored yesterday in Mountain View. As I said, as far as I know, it hasn't been posted yet. In fact, I don't think Sunday's been posted, but that's not up to me. But Cliff, anything about that at all? I mean, it's a pretty well-known film to martial artists. So.
Sure. I mean, I haven't seen that film in a long time, but it is the same kind of language and way of speaking about things that is in the book Zen and the Art of Archery.
Okay.
Where he is instructed that he's not firing the bow, it is firing the bow, right? And it's very, I mean, it's really the same terminology. So when you were talking yesterday in class, I was thinking about that book, Zen and the Art of Archery.
Yeah.
Really good deep dive into the kind of Japanese, I mean, through a Westerner's lens, but a deep dive into the Japanese idea of, not of the transparent I, the transparent self, letting the thing, kind of stepping aside and letting the thing happen. And I was trying in class to be like part of the movement, right? Rather than I'm going to throw this person, more like, oh, if I can just sort of slide into the movement that in some kind of platonic ideal already exists, then it's effortless and smooth. And, when I'm able to do that, that's the case.
Okay.
So yeah, and it's not like, I'm a big tough martial artist, right? So that's not the vibe. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, in fact, in the film, there's that guy on the, the boat, they're going to fight in the tournament. And, he kind of is being really a pain in the butt, remember? And then he kind of, and so he starts picking on Bruce Lee, and that Bruce Lee could take him with his little pinky, but this guy's a wise ass, so to speak. And so he says, "What's your style?" And Bruce Lee says, "My style is the art of fighting without fighting." And then that guy, he's a real pain in the butt. He's kicking around at the kids and just creating a lot of discord. And he says, "Show me." And Bruce Lee says, "Not here, over there on that island." And the guy's so prepped to go, he goes into the boat, and Bruce Lee just kind of unties the rope, gives it to the kids that the guy's been tormenting, and all of a sudden this guy realized the kids could just let go and he's adrift. So the art of fighting without fighting, it's not anything about fighting at all. It's just more, I can beat this guy. He's a real yahoo. And of course, then I make my eyes stronger, okay? But the art of fighting without fighting. Not here, over there on that island. Okay. So this guy actually puts himself in that boat, and then, Bruce Lee empowers the kids that he's been tormenting. Yeah, drop it if you want. This guy, is just, and of course, in the tournament, everybody's fighting in that tournament. He's one of the first guys to get knocked out. So yeah, it's an interesting commentary on certain things, right? So that one, the art of fighting without fighting. In other words, it's okay. All you see is an opponent. And you see a situation, it's a power dynamic. This guy is obviously off. He's tormenting kids. He's going up. And, what are you going to do? You can take him, but then again, that sets up a dynamic. Wouldn't be good for Bruce Lee to take this guy out, right? Right. And the other thing in that movie is, right, he's going on that thing because, it's revenge, to avenge the death of his sister. The guy that killed her is one of the people on that island. And he goes to her grave and he just says, look, and his parents says, everything you've taught me, I'm going to violate here. I'm going to go out for vengeance. Please forgive me. It was a very interesting commentary. I mean, there's a lot of really good seeds for maybe the direction Bruce Lee wanted to see, like martial arts go as opposed to that sort of thing. Anything before we move on?
No, other than, the guy was obviously on the wrong path. That character.
Well, I mean, the question is,
very obvious.
Did he learn from being in the boat at the mercy of the kids? Did he learn from being knocked out pretty early in the competition? Or not? Some people just keep repeating the same mistakes. I. And so, part of what I think Bruce Lee is trying to say is the I moves towards a transparency, an emptiness with itself, i.e. becomes easy. And then the system opens up. You're a bit more settled. So easy the I, easy, open, settle. Okay? And as you're still a person, but the I kind of holds us hostage here, so we're easy with it. You breathe better. You're a bit more grounded and present. Easy, open, settle. I mean, there are other words for it, but the book on archery. I always like the thing where, this Zen archery student is hitting the target and getting really into, And so the Zen master, the archer, gives him a bow he can't even draw. Says, okay, you're back at the beginning now. You have a level, you're very good at it. There's more. And learning repeats. So after a while, you want to start the learning kind of being easy with the I. Letting the system kind of open a bit as opposed to being kind of settled and settled. Okay, anyway, that's kind of what we're looking at. Now, let me adjust this a little further back. Okay, so I thought we'd do a little bit. Easy ground. Set. When I set, I must unset to move. Easy to read. Easy. That frees the hips up. The hips are free, the upper system. I'm going to do this. Now it's a different thing, but one thing, for example, that Stephen Curry, watched a video of his, he's talking about ball handling. And he says something very interesting. It moves. The ball moves first. So in other words, then say it moves. I kind of add that, but the ball moves first. Ball moves first. So I'm going to cross over. The ball moves first. Ball moves first. Ball moves first. Ball moves first. Okay? Now, what does the ball represent? It's, against a background of kind of what we call openness, being settled, and emptiness that's not vacant. Ball moves first. And you notice, for example, when that happens, I'm out here, I'm set, and then I go into the action. The ball moves. And the ball, and we're using an energy basketball, obviously. I'm much better with the energy basketball than I am with a regular basketball, but ball moves first. Ball moves first. Ball moves first. Okay? It's a lateral motion. If I'm set, then it's very obvious to do that, but the ball moves first. So I just want you to see, you don't need a basketball, but the ball moves first. The ball moves first. Sitting, we say it moves. It moves. But if you're in the basketball court, the ball moves. It moves. Everything you do depends on where the ball is. If you have the ball, I'm going to move. No, it moves. It moves. I'm going to pass. No, it moves. Okay? And notice how right here, the movement is lateral. So check, your feet are easy. And one of the things, it moves, it moves. Okay, now I'm going to go this way and I'm going to go that way. Pretty boom, boom. It's a double move. Go this way and the other way. Okay, you're set. Boom, boom. Feet, easy ground, hips, fluid, boom, boom. Okay, that's the lateral motion. Okay, so give it a try. And anything on your part, just, it's the lateral motion. Slide, slide. Anything on that you notice?
So in Aikido, we're often like the center moves first, but the ball, imaginary or otherwise, is not, always located in your center. So it's an interesting shift of mental perception and awareness. That's what I'm noticing.
But what happens if your center puts you in a position that is receptive to it moving? So instead of thinking about what you're going to do, you're in your center. You're easy. You're open. There's a settled quality to it. And a little bit of that is like, you're kind of like water. You are still but not set. So somebody throws a pebble in there, and all of a sudden, water moves. So I don't think it's necessarily separate from it, but I'm moving, it moves first, You've got your center, there's a flow. Anything there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that part is the same, where the movement happens before the movement happens, if that makes sense.
There's a movement before the movement. And that movement before the movement has a partner. Stillness. The eye is too caught up and invested in what's going on. Easy. The eye has a lot of emotions around what's going on, so open. And the eye's nervous because of what's going on up here and what's going on, so settle. So the sense of it is motion always has a partner called stillness. And so for me, the center exists when the movement and the stillness are in some form of balance. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to do this. I'm going to easy. It stands, which means there's a background stillness. The obvious thing is that there's a plan to stand, but you're easy with it. The system opens. I got to stand better, whatever, but I might trip before, whatever. And then you're kind of settled. The water's not this way, it's still in there. The movement unfolds through that stillness. So you can just practice certain things, just sitting in the chair. I'm going to stand. Yeah, that's fine, obvious. I'm going to stand better. I'm going to remember to Stand from my center. Oh, that's good, but easy there. Then you open. Then might there have emotions about, see, open and settle. Emotion unfolds through you. And the feeling is it stands. It moves. It moves. It double moves. Okay? So, anything on your part right there?
Nothing additional at this time, Sensei.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Now, if we were now we're working lateral motion. Now I'm walking. I'm going to walk in a more flowing manner. And by that, easy, open, settle to some degree. It walks. It walks. It moves. It moves. So it's a background of stillness, emptiness. Maybe carrying a lot of emotions. And you sort of have to be like Spock. Doesn't mean you're emotionless, it's just you know how you feel. But the emotions are a little bit more about what's going on out there, reflected in yours. Just easy. Just open. Settle. I'm gonna walk, it walks. It walks. It stands. I'm breathing, but it breathes. And conversely, it sits. I'm going to meditate, I'm going to settle, I'm going to focus on easy now. And that's the stage. Then I have feelings back and forth about whether I should or what's the best way of doing it. That's really not a feeling, it's an emotional state. Easy, open. Yeah, of course, settle means that I'm like water in a cup. What did Bruce Lee say? Put water in a cup, it becomes the cup. Put water in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. And then he says, be like water. It's beautiful stuff. It's almost like life here, water scene. And he describes all the things you can crash, it can crush, it can flow. But right now we're just sitting in a teapot, or in a cup, or in a human vessel. And thoughts are going to come up, and I have feelings about what's going on in the world. I have all these mass shootings, police brutality. Yeah. Don't do this as an escape. It's just that you can eat yourself alive. Yeah, that's going on. Easy the eye. And we have to be a little bit more like Spock. Yes, that did happen in the 21st century, but we're in the 23rd. Are we going to make it to the 23rd? Easy, open, settle. And there's a transparency. Yeah, that's all going on. And there's a stillness going on. That water in the cup is still but not set. Or, you know, the whole thing in the freezer, all of a sudden it's ice. It's not water. Or it's water in a different state. Shake the cup. Something's creating that sort of movement and tension in the cup. But let it sit enough. There's that stillness again. And there are things like quiet. So all that quiet stillness, to some degree, that emptiness is kind of its own thing. It's like not so much I'm there, but it's almost like I'm just transparent, kind of hanging out there. And when I do this, I kind of recharge my interior batteries, which, given all the news and everything, really gets drained. This is going on way too fast, creating emotions around feelings, okay? So my batteries get recharged. Okay. So, you know, we're just saying easy the eye or easy, open, settle. Anything you want to add before we actually get up and start moving?
Not really. I was just sort of being.
Yeah. Yeah, we go from, you know, just the thinking, emotional set to being a bit more settled. And then whatever it is, whether it's stillness or emptiness or calm, it becomes more experiential. And as we kind of settle and soak there, it becomes more of a being state. Okay, yeah. So, you know, it's somewhat mappable. We just spend so much time up here and here. And then that being state, you know, let's just say that experiencing state, you know, what are you feeling, experiencing? Oh, it's kind of still. Ooh. It's calm. Ooh. It's kind of an emptiness, but I'm not empty. You know, I'm not empty. Somehow, yeah, I can feel my interior batteries kind of recharging a bit here. Anything on that before we get up?
Yeah, you know, that stillness does kind of recharge batteries. I mean, I know this because, like, I got kids running around the house and all that, right? So when there's a moment of stillness, that's absolutely necessary.
Yeah, you know, to some degree, oh, since they had his prayer time, his meditation time. Sometimes it's good just to kind of soak there. I get lost, drift off. What happened? I fell asleep there. Yeah, that happens. I gotta move. Okay, you gotta move. So you kind of go from here to here. And calming these two centers down is very difficult. And let's settle, easy, open, settle. You see kind of a pyramid there, okay? But at the base, it's about 4 corners, very, very balanced, isn't it? And there's a point. There's focus here, yeah, upper centers. Sometimes you get images there. I'm thinking about a pyramid, okay. I have feelings about what I need to be. Well, settle a bit. Sometimes what are you sensing, imagining there? The pyramid. And as much as I get transparent, you're in the transparency. Okay, anyway. One of the things about we were working, for example, here, I'm used to doing this, removing this way. But for example, thought goes down there, but I'm in a set position. I go this way. What I just did, for example, is easy ground. Okay, thought, the foot, hip moves. In fact, the way they creep is the ball moves first, the hip moves first. Off of that easy ground. And of course, there's a thought. I'm thinking about hips, thinking about how to feet. Yeah, that starts. That's up here, but easy with it. And then, right about here, it just kind of flows a bit better. Settle a bit deeper. It moves. It moves. It moves. It moves. And it moves and it goes. See, it starts from some stillness. It moves. It's a double motion, But both of those come out of a stillness. And there's motion. It moves. There's something I need to be more flowing. I need more present. I need more ground. I need more center. Easy. Open. Center. Okay? Is that try a couple of those, simple but actually very important. Anything before we pick up something and move with it?
Yeah, when I'm, letting it move and my hips move first and all of that, it becomes more like dancing than walking.
Yeah. I mean, Fred Astaire, could walk onto a stage and, hey, it's Fred Astaire. Okay. Right. So, the term dancing, so is he dancing to come on the stage? No, it's Fred Astaire walking. Fred Astaire walking. Right? It's Stephen Curry dribbling the basketball. He kind of dances, but it's not dancing that way. It's boom, 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 boom. His movements have a dance-like quality. Yeah. It kind of stands out, right? Okay. One of the things we're doing here, for example, most of the time we orient in terms of the front and the back, but we work a little bit the lateral movement. Okay? In sports, a lot of times you need lateral quickness. Lateral quickness to set up the forward and back. Sometimes you get somebody who's laterally quite good, but they don't have that, what they call the, the breakaway speed in football. It's like all of a sudden. And then sometimes you get somebody who can dance and all of a sudden they get a lane and they score the touchdown. Okay, in basketball, you usually have a defender right there, right? And that defender is going to not let you go there, so you got to go this way. And if they're a little slow, you go that way. But if you cross over, if they move you, you can double cross over. Okay. So one of the things I was going to mention is that we stand triangularly because right here, say, let's forward back to see. I think one of our sensei's points of genius is he took the spear, triangular feet, and his forward back motion, which is the entering motion, was really the lateral motion. See, if something's coming my direction, then I'm off the line of it, and the same thing. It's just boom. I can make my connection right there, boom, that way. Okay, without this is coming this way, I go out, we collide in the middle. And if I go this way, I'm trackable. Okay, so that basic movement. Now we can do that on this side. But see what I'm doing right here is when the movement starts from some easy ground. So if I have the ground, I set to turn my hips. Easy. So, in fact, after a while, the hip turning generates the step. And then I turn the hip. I set to turn the hip and move. Like right here. I want to be like that. Water in the cup is still. But if you tilt the cup, the water moves. Spills, whatever. But until it does, it's still, isn't it? Water is very easy with itself. It can be very open with itself, and it's settled. It's not moving, it's still, but not set. And then motion happens. And you can argue there's motion. You create this motion, I spill the water. But as a result, the water starts to move. I take a cup, pour the water into another cup. The water moves, finds a stillness with itself in another cup, doesn't it? Okay, so some of our moves, or conversely. Now you see what I'm doing is this kind of you can advance with that motion, but I'm just trading sides, but where does that motion? And I'm off the line. Ground, hips, feet. Ground, hips, feet. Change hands, it's an entering motion. Ground, hips, feet, can enter from the side, be off the line. So, that really comes from it moves, it moves, it moves, it moves, it moves, it moves, it moves. Wait, I don't know that yet. Yeah, so there's some repetitive practice. But sometimes it's good to know what you're aiming for. Transparency, openness, a settled quality without setting. Well, there's too strong a dialogue going on up here. I can't listen to what's going on up here. All I hear is this and bounce that off of this. So sometimes it's useful to just, right? So, we have this, that motion. So I think my case, this is me. One part of Sensei's genius is in kind of lateral movement, which is where you feel the hips. I'm going this way. I'm setting every single time I get movement. We go this way, and this way, and this way. And this one. See, the feet have that easy ground. And then toward the motion. Feet, hips, hands. Feet, hips, hands, hands. Feet, hips, hands, hands. Feet, hips, hands. Then we get a variety of different possibilities here. Okay? Initially, there are forms for you out there, but go this way, go this way. Go this way, go this way back. This way, this way, that way. You start with the water in the glass. Then there's movement, so the water moves. And it's all taking place in that very alive emptiness. I'm checking breathing. Let's check I'm breathing. It's breathing. It's aliveness. I'm kind of transparent, empty enough that it's aliveness is the breathing, is the motion. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so we have this one. Any thing you might want to add to that, or?
Only that I had a sense of, freedom and possibility moving in that way.
Well, there's possibility. And then as we get the ease, the settle part of it, the probability for something to happen increases. If you don't have the possibility, oftentimes the probability stays pretty much nothing. If you don't buy a lottery ticket, you can't win the lottery. Okay, that principle. I keep telling myself, buy a lottery ticket, but my thoughts run in other directions. Okay. Anything?
Nothing additional at this time since.
Okay. I keep catching myself here, which is kind of like, okay, I'm kind of too scattered up here, so I want to stand up and easy. So we have an environment. And we have this motion. Now, what I thought we did, we got 10 minutes. Okay. 21, 22, 23. Everything starts with a pattern. From another angle. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We could do it the other side. We're just going to stay on this side right now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that one, for example, I go this way. What happened? Well, the movement started. I was a little behind it. Right, left, back to the center, and up. Now, it's a form. I get better at the form. I get more aliveness to the form. I understand the form better. The movement gets better. Okay? Boom. 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 Spiral out, spiral back. Spiral out, spiral back. Spiral out goes from right to left. The spiral back goes from left back to right. Double spiral. Double spiral. Double spiral. You can see you catch patterns of which way is the double spiral. Well, I'm really now I heard it's a double spiral, so I'm kind of understanding the double spiral with the 23. On the other hand, boom. So much like for me, Wada plays Stephen Curry's basketball with this. It moves. It moves. No, I don't understand it yet. That's fine. Goes this way, back to the middle, and up. For example, for the next movement to start, 1, 2, 3, 4 to be full, it's touching the ceiling and the imaginary ceiling. Just keep running around. I have some limited sense of ground and I'm forcing the movement. I like, windshield wipers, rain. Rain's ended, the sunroof opens, there's sun and fresh air. And if you go like this and open it this way, then you get rained on. There's a sunroof to a car, but you need the windshield wipers, right? Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So anyway, just that movement, what you learn to do there is to double figure eight. Double figure eight. Figure eight here is very easy. Okay. Now it's harder when you have two hands. Double figure eight. Double figure eight. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's very important. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Click anything on a movement that you're familiar with, but you're familiar with it more like, okay, my 30 movements are starting to flow a little more. Okay, but anything on that?
Yeah, a couple things. One, it was helpful for you to describe it, the first two components as spirals, because when I started viewing them as spirals, they became spirals and it flowed better. The other thing is, again, and this was an insight from the last time we did a focus, I guess it was last Friday, on this part of the 30 movements, is that having freedom of movement in the hips and specifically the knees, because there's that up and down component to it, allows it to flow just in general and become a microcosm of flow.
No, flow, knees are walk. I'm really jerking everything around, and the knees are going up and down. See, again, you know, there's the water in the cup. You're kind of a calm space with an, you're empty. That's motion can, I'm doing the movement, it happens. The knees move differently. Now, what I got with you. 1, 2, 3. Instead of 4, we'll examine that. 1, 2, 3, 4. What do? We added a basic blend, turn, pivot. We changed 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or we go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So we're adding, you know, just breaking the pattern, realizing what was your word is called probability. Okay, I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's somebody right behind me that's going to stick me in the back. Okay, maybe I go 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, now 4. Add the pivot. We don't do that in the 30 movements, but we could. And anything by adding that pivot? We might have done that not last week, but I don't remember. Okay.
No, we didn't do that last week.
Yeah.
I had a little trouble at first because I was overcomplicating it. When I did the pivot, I wanted to switch the Joe to a strike, right, with the turn, instead of just keeping it more or less, you know, where in the defensive posture. I was like spinning and going whack. And I'm like, no, it stays in the defensive posture. So it took me a while to like not add something. That was unexpected.
One thing I actually did learn directly from Bruce Lee, I mean, not the person, but watching Enter the Dragon. You know, he has that warehouse scene where he's fighting empty and then he grabbed right. And one thing he does is basically, you know, he kind of, there's a scene where we go boom, he thrusts here, but then boom, he goes up in the up motion. See, we see this from the Japanese standpoint as being a blocking or covering motion. But, you know, he goes boom, and he goes boom, and hits the guy on the way up. And so, you know, that's, you know, boom. Now, when you're going this way, boom, you may block, but boom, that can also be, and then, yeah. Okay, so there's a sense where, I mean, these are just guidelines for movement. And what happens when you kind of all of a sudden go, okay, I'm learning a form, is that we you know, like, okay, water's still in a cup. Well, put it in a saucer. Okay, still water, still. Put it in a teapot. Okay. Put it in a coffee maker. It's not coffee yet. Okay. Okay, you see what I mean? There's an area where the stillness of the water I want to put it in the shape. I want to look at it like, okay, that's what it is. Okay, and maybe that's just one possibility. Now the probability is, okay, if I put it in the cup, I'm going to drink the cup. The water, actually, not the cup. I'll put it in the teapot, I'm going to make tea. I put it in the coffee maker, I'm probably going to make coffee. You say, but what we really see is the usage of the water. We don't see the water, do we? And we don't acknowledge that the water, to some degree, becomes its vessel. And one way of looking at it is you or I, we're a vessel. What are we a vessel for? Chi, life force, soul, consciousness. And I read somewhere where you want to be able to see yourself not so much as a body with a soul, but as a soul with a body. Okay? The emptiness is what makes the cup useful. You want to put wine in it, fine. You want to put champagne in it, fine. You want to put a soft drink in it, fine. You want to put water in it, fine. You want to put coffee in it, fine. But I mean, that was a pretty big Bruce Lee statement. The usefulness of a cup is in its emptiness. Yeah, so see, the whole point of Lee's movies, you know, one, he couldn't really make it as an actor in Hollywood. He was a kung fu coach to movie stars and producers and directors, but he couldn't really crack, you know, the ethnic bias against Oriental. Okay. So what did he do? He had an idea for a TV series called The Warrior, and then all of a sudden, he finds his idea on the screen with a white actor cast as this character, right? So he just leaves, goes to Hong Kong, and he finds a back door into Hollywood. I mean, the irony is that, you know, when he made Enter the Dragon, yes, he made it. But by the time it was shown in the theaters, he had crossed over, he was dead here. But he never lived to see Bruce Lee mania. I remember Bruce Lee was big enough that, you know, Hikizuchi Sensei's dojo, Shingu, we used to have a club and an actual meeting of the accounting school. There were high school level kids, but these are kids that failed the entrance exam to Shingu High School and Shingu Business High School. So they were in the accounting school. And so they would use the dojo a couple of days a week for club, but then again, there would be actual classes. In fact, you know, Mary and Linda and I, we used to go to those classes. Why? Because Hikizuchi Sensei, he would consistently teach those classes. Whereas in the evening, sometimes, you know, the other teachers were great. But if you wanted to see him, you go to those classes. And, you know, he's trying to get these kids' attention. And, you know, so basically, you know, he kind of, you know, Sensei wa Bruce Lee no daibu ue desu yo, which translates as, me, Sensei, much better than Bruce Lee. And of course the kids are going, but they're going, because they were into Bruce Lee. But he actually tried to use that to get their attention, you know, okay? So anyway, we are, let's see, we're in Mountain View, Aikido Mountain View on Sunday, 11:30 to 1, okay? So anything before we break today?
No, other than that would be like, that's quite a claim.
That would be like what?
That's quite a claim, better than Bruce Lee, right? You'd have to.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You'd have to prove it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean,
when I
literally.
was,
No,
I was-
literally, you know, you would walk down the streets in this funny little coastal town. And you see guys with, you know, those shields that Bruce Lee used to practice kicking. Everybody wanted to be Bruce Lee. Literally. You look at me, yeah, I want to be Bruce Lee too. You know, but I'm doing Aikido, so of course, you know, I was paying attention, right? But I thought that was really funny because he couldn't get anybody's attention. These are kids that failed 2 entrance exams, and they were stuck in the accounting school being made to attend their Aikido class. In fact, my first teaching experience, real, I mean, I taught, you know, at Aikido Woodside, which became Aikido West before I went back to Japan. But, you know, what I realized is that there was nobody teaching me, you know, I mean, they would just goof around. So I started going in and taking the class, you know, and I was probably about a D-Don candidate then. And, you know, I got a chance to go out there and boom, you know, try to get their attention, you know. And one thing you know, so I taught it. And then what happened one time, I decided, you know, I'm going to take an afternoon off, so I went down a haircut. Guess what? I heard about it. Hikizuchi says, you missed that class. I said, no, it was volunteer. He said, your class. I went, oh, okay. In other words, that was something that I was doing, he was happy about. And it was fun. There was a bunch of kids that were punks, you know, and, you know, to get their attention. And conversely, you know, there were, you know, like, they were called them boys or men. There were girls, women, really. I mean, you know, and the women or the young women, they would kind of be in their corner and they would giggle all the time. They didn't do anything. So there I am taking the class, right? And Hikizuchi sensei, you know, he'd go point at me and say, "Detakoi," which means emerge now. And then he'd do something with me as Uke. So I started doing the same thing, pointing at the young women, saying, "You're going to come out." And all of a sudden they giggled. But after a while, they were Uke, right? And all of a sudden they were better than the young men. I got the young women to where they had spirit, you know, and you know, I've never been that successful here, you know, doing that. Although, yeah, I think I have been successful to some degree, but turning around that class might have been my biggest accomplishment in Aikido because it was so bad. You know, the boys were just, you know, like, and the young women were just sat there and they kind of giggled. And all of a sudden, after a while, you know, they would come out as Uke, boom, they would have some spirit to them, right? And that was kind of fun. I mean, Hikizuchi sensei didn't have to get out there and teach, except the classes he taught. You know, but I go out there and I was doing the club stuff because other than that, the senior guy would do it. They would all goof around and the young women would stand around and giggle and not do anything. You know, it was a total waste of time. I go, boom, here we are. Ah. And, you know, that was, you know, what did I do? Well, on one level, to be honest with you, I printed that was Bruce Lee doing Aikido. That got their attention. Anyway, enough for today.
There you go.
So,
you know, it probably was the first time in some of their lives somebody actually took them seriously as people and said, I'm gonna teach you something of value, you know, and that may have had a big impact in their professional lives and their personal lives outside the dojo. You never know, right? When you're a butterfly flapping its wings, you don't know what storms you're going to create.
Yeah, I don't know what seeds might have been planted there. Hopefully they were good. And you know what happened is, you know, the one guy there was a real punk, you know. In fact, you know, apparently, you know, was not seen very well. He kind of was with one of the young women. He kind of set up a household with her, you know, and that was scandalous, right? So the high school says, Hikizuchi sensei, this guy And so Hikizuchi Sensei calls me in the office and he mentions this guy's name. He says, Jack Misogi, which means you're supposed to put this guy through hell.
Yeah.
You know,
Purify him.
also, you know, so you know, what are you going to do? It's not me. So, you know, and pretend I'm Bruce Lee. So Lee, you know, in a way, you're kind of got archetypes, right? And, you know, the person who got me involved in martial arts, you know, was Diana Rigg. She was in the Avengers TV spy series, Emma Peel, Mrs. Peel. And so it was kind of gratifying, you know, because, you know, what would I do? I pretend I was Bruce Lee doing Aikido. Wham! I was pretty successful then, you know. And then, but the women, the young women, you know, they were kind of like, hee, they wouldn't do anything. Like, you know, they were all of a sudden they were walking out like they were Emma Peel. And that was pretty cool. Yeah, a funny little coastal town. You'd be surprised how powerful your archetypes are. Bruce Lee is physically not with us, but he exists as an archetype, philosopher, martial artist. He wasn't just people who, you know, you could kick the best or whatever it is. He's still with us. Okay. Anyway, so we'll hopefully see you on Sunday. So we'll kind of call it for today. We went a little over time. Okay. So.
Thank you, Sensei.
Okay. Take care. Let's see. We go. Yeah, we go. All right. What do? We end the recording. Now, come on. Come on.